Ever since we were kids, my sister Chloe was the one who got the world handed to her on a silver platter, while I was handed the silver polish. She was the favorite, not just by a little, but by a mile. If she sneezed, the world stopped spinning. If I got an A+, my mom barely looked up from her phone. Birthdays always made this favoritism hit like a punch to the gut. When Chloe turned 16, my parents threw her a surprise party with a private DJ, custom cake, and a professionally shot highlight reel. When I turned 16, we split a sheet cake from the grocery store and no one even remembered to sing. I pretended not to care, even smiled in some of the photos, just so I wouldn't ruin the mood. But deep down, it carved something raw into my heart. I wasn't seen. I wasn't loved the way she was. I tried to justify it. Maybe they thought I was stronger. Maybe they believed Chloe needed more support. I told myself that lie over and over until the day they stopped pretending too. On my 25th birthday, I woke up to a single envelope on the kitchen counter. No card, just cash. A $20 bill with a note scribbled, "Bus fare if you're going out tonight. Happy birthday." That was it. Meanwhile, Chloe came waltzing down the stairs wearing a designer dress, her hair freshly blown out. It was her birthday too. Yes, we're born on the same day, 2 years apart. She announced that Mom and Dad had just gifted her a brand new white BMW SUV. I froze. A BMW? For her? And bus fare for me? My chest tightened like a vice. I didn't say a word. I just looked at them. My mom raised an eyebrow like, "What?" My dad chuckled. "Come on, you don't even like driving." Chloe chimed in, "Yeah, and you're always saying buses are better for the planet." They laughed. I excused myself, locked myself in the bathroom and stared into the mirror. That was the moment something inside me snapped, not in anger, but in clarity. I wasn't going to beg for love anymore. I wasn't going to explain my worth. And I definitely wasn't going to sit on the sidelines of a life I'd been pushed out of for far too long. They thought I was the forgettable one, the girl who would quietly walk to the bus stop while they waved from their luxury driveway. But they had no idea who I had become while they weren't paying attention. I didn't take the bus that night. Instead, I went back to my apartment, the one they'd never visited, never asked about. I sat at my desk and opened my laptop. On the screen were spreadsheets, contracts, pitches, all the work I'd been doing for the past 4 years to build something real, something they didn't know existed, because they never asked. I had started a luxury concierge business after college. Quietly. At first, it was just airport pickups and private chauffeurs for a few hotels. Then I expanded. Celebrity transport, VIP event logistics, travel planning. My client list grew as fast as their ignorance. They thought I was a receptionist, a nanny for travelers, my mom once joked. But I had drivers on 3 continents and staff on call 24/7. My company was now valued at over $2 million. I didn't tell anyone. I didn't need to. Until now. The next day, I transferred ownership of one of my black-tinted limos to my name. Then, I arranged for it to be detailed, polished, and stocked with champagne and roses. Not for Chloe. This wasn't about her. It never was. It was about showing my parents exactly what they missed while they were too busy worshiping at the altar of their perfect child. I waited a week. Then I called my personal assistant and gave her a script. I wanted everything done discreetly, tastefully, but I wanted it to sting. On the following Saturday, the doorbell rang at my parents' house. They were hosting a garden brunch in honor of Chloe's new car. Yes, a party for the BMW gift. Neighbors and family friends were there, taking photos with the car like it was a celebrity. That's when the limo pulled up. A sharply dressed chauffeur stepped out and walked up to the gate. He handed my father a note on black linen paper with gold-embossed letters. It read, "You gave her a BMW. You gave me bus fare. But I own the road now. The limo is yours for today. The bill is already paid, so enjoy the ride, because it's the closest you'll get to what I built without ever asking how." They looked around, stunned. My mother's forced smile dropped for the first time in years. Chloe tilted her head, trying to understand. "Is this from her?" The driver nodded. She also said to tell you, she's done waiting to be noticed. The entire garden went silent. Whispers rippled through the crowd. My parents tried to save face, pretending it was all part of the plan. They even got into the limo, but the weight of the moment crushed them because they knew. This wasn't about money. It was about the undeniable truth. I had created a life so far beyond their imagination, and they'd been too busy treating me like I didn't exist. The next day, I pulled the quietest card of all. I looked over the contracts my company held with several vendors and transport providers. One name stood out, my father's firm. He had landed a side gig managing accounts for a local transport hub that rented out cars through our concierge system. Without knowing, he'd been profiting off my company for almost a year. I terminated the contract, politely, legally, no drama, just a letter that said, "Effective immediately." When he called me in a panic, I answered. "Why are you doing this?" he asked. Not angry, scared. I took a long breath and simply said, "Because for 25 years, you taught me that loyalty is earned, not given, and I'm just taking your lesson seriously." Then I hung up. That night, Chloe posted a new photo on Instagram. It was her posing with the BMW captioned, "Queen energy, always winning." But I didn't feel defeated. I felt whole, because finally, I was done chasing a family who never clapped for me, and I was building my own applause, one quiet power move at a time. Weeks passed. I didn't speak to my parents. I didn't respond to their half-hearted texts, the ones that said, "Can we talk?" without ever saying sorry. I had heard silence from them for years. Now, they would hear mine. But it wasn't bitterness that fueled me anymore. It was clarity. I was done begging to be seen. One morning, I got a call from an international hospitality chain. They wanted to partner with my company for exclusive executive transport services across the country. It would triple my operations and my worth. We scheduled a press conference. My face would be in the papers, online, on screens. The world would see what my family refused to, that the quiet girl with bus fare had become the one opening doors they couldn't even knock on. On the day of the conference, I stood behind the curtain in a designer suit, mic clipped, heart steady. But just before I walked out, my assistant whispered, "There's someone here asking for you. Your mother." I froze. For a second, the child in me stirred, the one who once just wanted her mom's pride. But that version of me had grown up. I turned and walked toward the back hall, where she stood in cheap sunglasses and a panicked smile. "I had to come," she said. "We saw the article. Your father's embarrassed, but we're proud. I mean, we always knew you were smart." I didn't say a word. "I know things weren't always equal, but you know how your sister is. She needs more. You were always fine." There it was. You were always fine. The lie they fed themselves to excused the way they erased me. "Mom," I said, voice calm. "Do you even know what I do?" She blinked. "You help rich people get around?" I nodded. "Close. I run the logistics networks that support Fortune 500 CEOs, artists, diplomats. I own the software your own company uses to schedule meetings. I was the investor who saved your neighbor's failing catering business last year. But more than that, I stopped waiting for the people who raised me to care." She opened her mouth, but I wasn't finished. "I invited Chloe to the press event." Her eyebrows jumped. "She's presenting the first award. Because I know she'll take credit if I don't hand her the microphone myself. That's what this family does. Takes." "So why invite her?" she asked. "Because I want you to see something," I said, stepping closer. "When the lights hit the stage, when the applause roars, and when Chloe's trying to keep up with words she didn't write, I want you to realize the real difference between us." I leaned in, quiet and sharp. "I build, she borrows." Then I turned and walked onto the stage. Chloe was already up there in a glittering dress, nervously reading from a teleprompter. She mispronounced 3 company names and smiled through it. When she called my name, I stepped into the light. The cameras flashed. The audience stood. She handed me the award. I took it, held it in one hand, and looked at her. "Thank you," I said into the mic. To my family, thank you for teaching me that silence can be powerful, but resilience is louder. The crowd roared. After the event, I stepped outside to the line of black cars waiting for VIPs. At the front sat my limo. I opened the door, but not for myself. I nodded to the elderly woman standing by the sidewalk in tears. Mrs. June, the neighbor whose rent I paid secretly after my parents cut ties with her. The woman who used to bring me hot cocoa when I studied late on my porch. She got the ride home. Not my parents. Later that night, I scrolled through social media. Chloe's post was up already. So proud of my sister. What a boss. And in the comments, a few strangers asked, "Wait, didn't your family forget her birthday this year? Didn't y'all give her bus fare while you got a BMW?" No one replied. And that was the twist. I didn't need revenge that made noise. I didn't need a scene, just the quiet power of truth, of rising anyway, of showing up bigger than they ever imagined. Weeks later, my mother sent one last message. "Can we be part of your world again?" I stared at it, then clicked archive. Because finally, I wasn't that girl begging for a seat at their table. I had built my own, bigger, bolder, and surrounded by people who clapped without being asked. And parked in my driveway was a new limo, not to show off, but just in case I ever wanted to give someone else the ride I never got.